Protesters are blocking Eloff Street in Johannesburg with rocks and burning tyres. It is understood that they are protesting about not receiving food parcels from government. Now, our reporter Linda Mnisi is currently standing by. Linda, good morning. Thank you for joining us. Let's just look at the motive behind what flared up these protests. Obviously, residents saying that they haven't received food parcels. I mean, were you able to establish from whom this was meant to come from? And since then, has the situation perhaps delve down a bit? What's the latest on your front?
Well, a very good morning to you, Liesel. Indeed, the situation is calm for now, but remains volatile. The residents of this informal settlement here in Germiston earlier took to the street, Eloff Street in particular, to barricade the roads over the fact that they say they have been forgotten, really. There is no sort of relief that is coming from any government official, particularly from the ward council. As you can see, it's quite calm right now, but residents here are just quite angry about how they've been left, destitute given the fact that it is, of course, the period where we are on lockdown, and they're questioning whether this is the type of situation they're supposed to be living under. I want to take you through, some of what it looks like here. As you can see, they say that waste dump that you're seeing over there, that's sort of like a hill, is where they actually get their food, and they're saying that this is actually making them, break the rules of the lockdown. As you can see, some of them still here speaking to some of our colleagues, some members of the media. They're questioning whether this is, in fact, the situation that they're supposed to be in under this lockdown. I've got with me Busangapi Sithole, who's representing the community here. Busangapi, ngiyabonga isikhathi sakho. Mhlambe sichazele ukuthi yini le enikwatisa kangaka.
Sanibonani, ngibingelela igama lami ngubusangane ngwakasithole igama ngihlala khona la eBoys Informal Settlement. Into esikwatisile singumphakathi since kuqale ilockdown. Kwi-part 1 ye-lockdown, ikhansela lethu asikaze salibona. Savumela i-government mayethi asilokhwe sihlale endlini. Sawumamela umthetho we-government. Masumamela umthetho we-government salinda ukuthi ikhansela lizoza kithi njengomphakathi. Lizos-addressa nge-COVID-19. Lisitshela ukuthi ngoba silokhekile singasebenzi siphila nge-recycling kule ndawo. Sizothola kanjani ukudla, sizothola kanjani insipho, sizothola kanjani insiza ekumele siyithole njengabantu njengomphakathi. Alikazange lafika ikhansela. Sazama ukuthi sithumele abanye ukuthi lize, salifonela alikazange libuyisele ifeedback kithi ikhansela. Kuthe kuzophela isizini yokuqala siya kwisizini 2. Ikhansela lasifaka emaphepheni, lafaka abanye bethu la, lasebenzisa bona, lashutha indawo yethu la, lathi ipoison libheke ngawo wonke amehlo. Ayilambi iBoys Informal Settlement. Ayiswele lutho. Lokho kwasimangaza siwumphakathi ngoba asazi ngisho uswayi le R350 lekhansela umengameli umnyameni asikazi lutho thina ngayela. Okay, njengoba sekuyaphela isizini 2 okwenza ukuthi ke namuhla siphume siyabona ukuthi siyaphela isikhathi, silambile, siphila ngokuhereza ukudla edampini, sahereza umsebenzi wethu, sesihereza ukudla kwamasipala edampini, nakhona siyashawa amaphoyisa lapha, ayashaya ama-metro lapha. Sathi ngcono siyephi emgwaqweni ukuze eze ezobona le ndawo ukuthi uhulumeni uthe asihlaleni simamele. Wena njengekhansela okuthume kithi ungumengameli sakuvotela, awuzi kithi uzobona usifundise nge-COVID-19 ukuthi i-COVID-19 kumele siyivikele kanjani, njengoba sihlala endaweni leniyibonela yona nani, njengoba niyibonela le ndawo niyayibona ukuthi njani le ndawo lena esihlala kuyona. Siyacela ukuthi usiqoqele lo doti, sinabatwana. Okwesibili, abantwana bethu abacheckiwe, kwanathi asicheckiwe. Akukho umuntu ocheckiwe kule ndawo. Sihlala emkhukhwini, imkhukhu ngoba niyibona imncane ihlala abantu abanga11 nga6. Sihlala singamafamily ngaphakathi.
Uthi ukhansela uke wayeza la wanilethela ama-jojo tanks for amanzi, wanilethela mhlambe nama-toilet. ingabe lokho kuyiqiniso?
Unamanga ukhansela umengameli. Lama toilet eniwabonayo amoshekayo neimpompi. Ama toilet afaka ukhansela uHadebe osowandlula emhlabeni yena una 4 years kulesi situlo. Akasenzelanga lutho uyasibalekela. Akafuni nanokuthi akhulume nathi ngoba namanje sithumela ngama metro uhlale kwenza. Na 2018 sithe masitoto yakusha imkhukhu ngale sethembisile. Wathi uzosifakela ipipe lamanzi ukuthi laba bangale bethole amanzi. Waqamba manga lolo Jojo walibeka phansi elilodwa mfethu. Akazange abeka amabili amathathu wabeka elilodwa walibeka phansi. Singumphakathi sa drain amanzi ngoba livimba imonto yamasimba mayizothatha ama toilet ngale. Sayidraina saliguqula sumphakathi salibeka ngale ngemumva namanje ngasuka nawe ngiyokukhomba lelo Jojo lelo engeza azolithatha yena akhuluma iqiniso unamanga luhlaza thepho thina kuye sifuna ama sanitizers siwaza active sifuna asicheke sifuna ukudla mihla yonke sidle sifuna le ndawo ayiclean njengekhansela sifuna ama toilet singene toilet eli 1000 kodwa kuthiwa kune COVID-19 into esingasayibelieve thina leyo siwumphakathi walo asayikhola ngoba namanje angazi noma ngiyagulana angazi noma ngikuphi mhlawumbe ngizothi manihamba ngizale ngifa ngibulawa iCovid-19 kodwa ngokuthi ngithi ayisekho ngoba uyabona mawunga ngibhekela lapha kusiwa amasimba leyo amasimba lawo mawunga wakhanyisa siphila kanjena thina impilo esiyiphilayo khansela wethu akasenzeli lutho kunalokho nje okungizokusho khansela la ukhona ngizwe yimubusa ngane boys informal insegment yekela ukusivalela ama parcel food abanye benhlanga no DA EFF NFP mabefuna ukuzosupporta uthi wena uyasinceda awusincedi unamanga.
All right, there you have it. Apologies there for the foul language that has been used. As you can hear behind me, Lisa, some of the community members supporting that statement, saying that they're living in absolute, poverty, and the fact that here it's actually they can't live in these conditions, and that they have been left without some sort of help. We had an opportunity to speak to the ward councillor earlier on, and he said that these are some of the measures that he's put in place. You might have heard her speak about issues around toilets, but the ward councillor in fact says that he has been able to provide them with the necessary education. He says he's provided them with toilets that they need. He also says that he's provided them with water, but all of this, Liesel, is of course disputed by the members of this particular community. Of course, this raises questions around whether they should be protesting, given the fact that it is illegal during this time to do that. But they say this is, of course, their last resort. Liesel?
Linda, in conclusion, you did mention that the situation has calmed down, but it remains volatile. I'm just looking at the presence of police. Are they still at bay? And also, just in terms of defying some of the lockdown regulations, I mean, you can see the gathering, the social distancing that perhaps doesn't seem to be reflected there. I mean, what's transpiring on that end?
Well, Liesel, social distancing is really not a thing here, because they say that it's quite difficult for them to stick to some of the regulations that have been put in place. Earlier on, there was, the JMPD here, as well as some members of the SANDF who were dispersing the crowds that were gathering here. A couple of them have shown us wounds that they allege that they suffered as a result of the rubber bullets that were being fired throughout this community. As you can see, not much of social distancing happening here, but they're saying it's because of all the things that they are facing on a daily basis. They're literally living their lives hoping that someday the councillor would come and give them some sort of relief. What also important, Lisa, you might have heard the representative there of the community mentioning that they haven't been tested. There hasn't been any level of screening that is happening here. They'd like some kind of information around how to protect themselves from COVID-19, given the fact that everyone is being asked to protect themselves. Everyone is being asked to remain at home. Everyone is being asked to wear protective gear, things like masks, Lisa. But of course, they're saying that this hasn't been happening. As you can see, they remain in these streets quite defiant, saying that they are not backing down until some kind of intervention comes to this particular area. Many children we're seeing here, and very less protection that we're also seeing. But of course, the ward councillor has come out. He says he's quite afraid of coming into the community because, of course, the residents are angry, but he's done all in his power to try and provide them with what they need. He also mentions issues around food parcels. He says that is no longer in his hands because the social development has mentioned that the ward councillors will not be handling any handing over of food parcels, and therefore that is no longer in his hands. He says that people should be acquainting themselves with some of the communication measures that have been put in place, contacting the social department and calling that hotline. But as you can see, very little of them, or rather Liesel, very little of them have cell phones and means to communicate. He says he's also put together data of the people that are here, and that will be submitted to the Department of Social Development here in Gauteng.
Linda Mnisi, let's leave it there. A reporter stationed at the Boysons informal settlement updating us on the latest there, where a protest erupted earlier on over food parcels which allegedly had been promised to the community.